Today I present to you Cyber Fury by none other than myself, David-Troi. Okay, imagine yourself in the not so distant future with sprawling metropolis named Metatech City. Think about flying cars, stacked buildings so high, levels, and all that stuff. But the land, the city itself, is just under lawless chaos. Crime syndicates, corrupted corporations, and even a dark, mysterious unknown have seized control of this city. And to fight this threat, a group of vigilante warriors, a hacker group known as Alpha Byte, they have decided enough is enough, and it is time to take the streets and perish all of the evil in vigilante fashion. Okay, so the game genre is a beat 'em up. The rating will be teen, probably because of the violence, and maybe there'll be some little bit of blood, gushes off of them as you punch them and knock them to the ground. So I want you to think Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. Those of you that haven't played this, think the old like Ninja Turtles side-scrolling arcade style game. Those of you that have played beat 'em ups, maybe Battletoads or Double Dragons, games like that. But think of the art style of Octopath Traveler, 3D, but yet everything sprites. Maybe the sprites still have shadows, the buildings still have shadows, the level's not linearly left to right. You can still go around the buildings and all that. But everything is in the art style of like Super NES pixelated, graphics. And to give you an even better idea of what the level design would be, think of The Ascent. Those of you that are played it, you know that it turns left and right and all that stuff. And this is perfect example of the world, the city, the levels, but combine beat 'em up, like get rid of Ascent's RPG, add in and replace it with Ninja Turtles in Battletoads style of beat 'em up with the art style of Octopath Traveler, and then you have Cyber Fury. So the target audience, wishfully, we all would want everyone to play our games. But ideally, I would say ages 16 to 35. These are, the most age groups that I would think would like action type games. Maybe it's set, with it being set in the future, with it being the trendy cyberpunky type thing going, especially with Cyberpunk's new update and everything. Maybe this could pull in the audience that likes that kind of style. But I would also like to believe an older audience, maybe past 35, that would have played, Battletoads on NES as a kid or a teenager of that time, would love to play this game because it would have the same mechanics and controls without it being too complex like some games are. And that, I believe, is a reason why a lot of the older audiences don't play games, because there's just too many buttons to do. This would be simplest. So my game loop, each level would have a cutscene, and from the cutscene you would explore, and you would come across your encounters with the combat of the enemies. Then you would do your mechanics of the combat, which would be groups of enemies, 5 or 6 depending on the area. And then if you lose, then you start back from the level or checkpoint. If you win, then you go back to exploring the level again, fighting again, and exploring again until you find the boss. And then from the boss, you would go to the next level, and that would restart the whole process again. Of course, the levels would look the same and different characters and stuff like that, but it would it would start over in the sense of the loop. Mechanics. So the player can walk, run, jump, and have an action button, which is punch or kick. Just like Battletoads and Double Dragons, if if to run, you would like double tap whatever direction you're going, and they would get a little sprint. Um, you only had two buttons on the NES: jump and punch. So trying to keep it just as simple as that. Just jump and punch. The combination of running and punching would give it a stronger attack, uh, which would hurt the enemy a little bit more. It's like if it takes a few regular punches to defeat the enemy, that kick would get them really good. Enemies and bosses, of course, enemies controlled by AI. They can walk, they can run, they can jump, and they can punch as well. So the goals of the game. The main goal is to defeat each encounter of enemies as you progress to the boss fight. Then you get to each level, which is the same thing: encounter enemy, boss fight, progressing through the story, which the story envelops as you progress through it, um, and ultimately the city's demise of its evil, kind of thing. So plot twist, everything's kind of layered, like it's all ran by one thing, one evil thing kind of rolling it all. Like the gangs, they're pretty much hired by corporations, and the corporations are controlled by this AI kind of thing, dark and mysterious AI that not too many people know about, kind of thing, and it's just kind of controlling everything because it's got a plan to take over the world and the humans, and by doing that, it'll create chaos into the world, and by creating that chaos, the common man and woman, they would want to get rid of the chaos. And I guess the AI's plan would be to come forth, be like, hey, I can make the world peaceful again. Just bow down to me, kind of stuff, and then it controls, then it would create all these little things that, yeah, pretty much control your life. So the platforms I decided was Xbox, PC, and Nintendo Switch. Reason being is because I feel like this game would work very good on. The reason I chose Xbox and PC is because there's a few handhelds out there that would look really good and play this game really good, like the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck, and there's a bunch of others out there that can play games if it's on Game Pass or if it's on the Xbox Store or the Steam Store and all that. So that's why I kind of brought in Xbox and PC, because that would cover most of those handhelds. And then of what better not than the other handheld by Nintendo. So, and with it being a teen audience-based thing, Nintendo may like it in a way that it's not as super gory and bloody, and like the Ascent was kind of, I guess, vulgar. This wouldn't fall under that. This would be a little bit closer to an audience that Nintendo would approve of. Selling point and why this game? Because it's unique art style, of course. As I mentioned, Octopath Traveler. That you can move around, just kind of like the Ascent. You move around everywhere, and the art style is just very unique. I feel there's not a lot of games like that, and there seems to be kind of a growing trend with retro pixel arty looking games like Stardew Valley and Octopath Traveler, and it just the art style alone. There's a lot of fan base for it, and I really think that it can give it its unique style. The story, the little bit I told you, I've got you interested to know more, like what happens along the way. Things could be added. Maybe at some point you find, and rescue another member of the hacker group, and then that unlocks player 2 or something. Little things like that could come. The ideas are just flowing. and also the music. So the music you heard earlier was something that I myself developed in, well, produced in FL Studio. Just as a hobby, I always liked to make little beats. So that was my imagination of what the music could be like. I think retro, synth wavy, 80s style, beats, and the game would just be full of that kind of stuff. And there's references.